What's up, people? What's going on? Welcome back to the greatest show on YouTube, the Three Black Heathen Show. We appreciate y'all coming in for these last couple of weeks, and we have a great show for you today. So I'm gonna let Drag on and introduce the topic for today because we're trying to destroy this thing.
Man, I don't know how you destroy something that's been dead and beat up for like the last I don't know how many years. So today, folks, we're going over to something that we all refer to now as Pratt. That's how bad it is. Points refuted 1,000 times. So the first clip that y'all are going to see, they're going to be William Lane Craig, none other, Dr. William Lane Craig. Let me not slight the man, going against Sean Carroll. So you know what? It's going to be interesting. But what y'all going to hear first is them kind of go have a little back and forth. You're going to hear Craig say something fucking crazy, and then you're going to have Carroll fucking own his ass. But we're just going to go straight into the rest of the Pratt. Not all of it. We're going to split this up into actually 2 separate ass episodes. And this week and next week we'll be covering that. And the week after that's going to be pretty interesting. We're going to cover something y'all may not have heard of. So stay tuned, folks. It's about to get real interesting real quick.
Well, before you play the clip, Nate, I want to let everybody know this particular argument is called the fine-tuner argument, or the FTA. So everybody know what argument we're dealing with. So go ahead, do your thing, Nate.
All right, here we go.
In recent decades, scientists have been stunned by the discovery that the initial conditions of the Big Bang were fine-tuned for the existence of intelligent life with a precision and delicacy that literally defy human comprehension. Now, there are 3 live explanatory options for this extraordinary fine-tuning. Physical necessity, chance, or design. Physical necessity is not, however, a plausible explanation because the finely tuned constants and quantities are independent of the laws of nature, and therefore they are not physically necessary. So could the fine-tuning be due to chance? The problem with this explanation is that the odds of a life-permitting universe governed by our laws of nature are just so infinitesimal that they cannot be reasonably faced. Therefore, the proponents of chance have been forced to postulate the existence of a world ensemble of other universes, preferably infinite in number and randomly ordered, so that life-permitting universes would appear by chance somewhere in the ensemble. Not only is this hypothesis, to borrow Richard Dawkins' phrase, an unparsimonious extravagance, but it faces an insuperable objection. By far, most of the observable universes in a world ensemble would be worlds in which a single brain fluctuates into existence out of the vacuum and observes its otherwise empty world. Thus, if our world were just a random member of a world ensemble, we ought to be having observations like that. Since we don't, that strongly disconfirms the world ensemble hypothesis. So chance is also not a good explanation. It follows that design is the best explanation of the fine-tuning of the universe. And thus the fine-tuning of the universe constitutes evidence for a cosmic designer.
So did you guys get that? Cosmic designer?
I think I just got cancer. I don't know. It's like, oh, well, you know, the most plausible explanation is, did he say a fucking brain? Like, because I listened to it before, and I don't think I caught that before, but he said like a brain, like an actual brain coming to a fucking existence.
He's talking about like a Boltzmann brain. That's what he's talking about. And I think
Sean Carroll was right. Then he said it was parsimonious. What the hell is he talking about? I just want to address this, but before we get to Sean Carroll's clip, he gave these 3 particular items of what they had to be.
Yeah.
So he said the first thing he said was physicality, and he talked about how it couldn't be it couldn't be the physicality thing, basically because it went into his second reason for it being because of the constants and the fine tuning of the constants and how they are independent of nature. First of all, that is a lie, because we know this through quantum physics and quantum mechanics now, that all of these constants are not independent of nature. That's the first thing that he flawed up on. And then, and then the third case, he just said, well, if it's not the other two, and we talked about this earlier, then it must be a designer. But I mean, how does it predicate a designer when he's basically flawed all the laws of physics? He hasn't explained how this fine-tuned, even if we agree and say, yes, it's fine-tuned. It's been fine-tuned, Mr. Craig. I agree. The universe is fine-tuned, even though the anthropic principle goes against that totally. And those who are not familiar with the anthropic principle and so many other principles, just think about this, guys. Think about this. Just on one point, if the universe was particularly fine-tuned, even though I'm agree with Craig and on this point, but just if the universe was fine-tuned by a particular designer, then why in the world would this designer, who is obviously so intelligent, why would he create, just thinking about the anthropic principle, a universe so big where basically 99.9% of this universe is devoid of life? Because if you say a universe is fine-tuned for life, 99% this universe is devoid of life. So that contradicts the anthropic principle, and it makes no sense why an intelligent being would just put life, as we know it, obviously, and as Christians and religious people believe, that we are the ones that were created for this earth on this little bitty planet, just to worship this designer. That makes no damn sense to me. It's ridiculous.
One thing about his argument too, that it seems to be he's trying to build this false dichotomy, either chance or designer. And I kind of have an exception with that, particularly because it could be something else. It could be some processes that we just not are aware of yet. And just to posit a designer, because don't forget, he has to endow this designer with all these attributes to create a universe. And then if you go, well, how do you know he has any of these attributes? Then he has to bring something else up. He has to. So he's not really giving us an explanation. He's just saying it can't be chance, and since it can't be chance, it's got to be a designer. Which this is not. He's not proving it. It's kind of like it's very circular. It can't be chance, so it's a designer. But how do you know it's a designer? Because it can't be chance. It's just like, all right, haven't really made an argument to me.
But it's almost like he's strawmanning himself, because there's no real physicists out there or astrophysicists who saying the universe came about by chance. So I mean, who says this? I think Stephen Hawking made great points during his career. Even Lawrence Krauss, man, who talks wild a lot of times, who talks past his debaters. But no one has just said, no scientists, real physicists or astrophysicists or quantum, physicists say, hey, we just think everything came about by chance. So those arguments are like straw man to me. They're weak.
That's their summation of, because it's either chance or God. Like if it says, well, here are the mechanisms that we know to exist that progress to a certain point, then that's how we get the things that we see to this day. It doesn't matter. Oh, well, that just it happened by chance. There was no intentionality to it, so it has to be chance. Well, I think some of our other clips are going to get into that specifically, but I do find that to be an interesting point, because then it kind of segues into, well, what's the purpose of the universe, or what's the purpose of life? And I think that's why they have to phrase it that way and eliminate any other possibility. Well, fuck, the universe is the way it fucking is, and if things survive in it, then it does. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Like right. Intention behind things.
No, but he's saying that if the multiverse is true, then you would expect to see a Boltzmann brain just pop up out of the vacuum of space and to start observing stuff. But that's not true. No, you could, if the multiverse is true, you could see that. That's a possibility, but that's one possibility in many.
Necessity,
and we're living in one of those possibilities. So. Exactly. So he's just built up this straw man that he wants to knock down. Okay, well, we would expect to see a Boltzmann brain, since we don't see Boltzmann brains. But then he wouldn't tell us what he expects, what he would expect if this thing was designed. He just says, well, since we have what we have, the expectation is if it was designed, we'd see what we see. He's not really making an argument. Why would we expect to see this type of universe if design is correct? So I don't know. Let's listen. If you guys want to move this clip too, let's listen to my man. What's his name? Sean Carroll. So he's going to take this out. Let's hear Sean Carroll talk about why in 90 seconds, it's going to be like some world record length right here. Why this argument doesn't make sense.
This is the best argument that the theists have. Given that, it is still a terrible argument. It is not at all convincing. I will give you 5 quick reasons why theism does not offer a solution to the purported fine-tuning problem. First, I am by no means convinced that there is a fine-tuning problem. And again, Dr. Craig offered no evidence for it. It is certainly true that if you change the parameters of nature, our local conditions that we observe around us would change by a lot. I grant that quickly. I do not grant that therefore life could not exist. I will start granting that once someone tells me the conditions under which life can exist. What is the definition of life, for example? Secondly, God doesn't need to fine-tune anything. I would think that no matter what the atoms were doing, God could still create life. God doesn't know what the mass of the electron is. He can do what he wants. The third point is that the tunings that you think are there might go away once you understand the universe better. They might only be apparent. Number 4, there's an obvious and easy naturalistic explanation in the form of the cosmological multiverse. 5th, and most importantly, theism fails as an explanation. Even if you think the universe is finely tuned and you don't think that naturalism can solve it, theism certainly does not solve it. If you thought it did, if you played the game honestly, what you would say is, here is the universe that I expect to exist under theism. I will compare it to the data and see if it fits. What kind of universe would we expect? And I claim that over and over again, the universe we expect matches the predictions of naturalism, not theism.
That seems pretty clear to cut. I don't know. I like Sean Carroll because Sean Carroll, he's if you guys have a chance to watch this debate because he goes beast mode on him.
Yes, he does.
So what do you guys think about his response?
I think it's actually a cogent point that he's offering there, and we see this in a lot of conversation we have here on Google Plus, where our interlocutor won't actually say, well, this is what I expect. This is what should be the case. This is only, well, let me see if I can poke holes into naturalism. Let me see if I can poke holes into evolution or abiogenesis or what have you. They think that if you can simply try and poke holes into something they barely understand, then that's enough to provide evidence for their position. And oftentimes when you go, well, you know what, let me just for the sake of argument accept everything. Let me accept fine tuning. Let me accept your postulations here, specifically the ones that Craig laid out. How does that get me to your particular theology, and specifically your brand of theology and not another brand of theology?
Right.
It doesn't answer any of that because then they have to bring in more assumptions in order for you to get to that position. So and we all sit here and we play the game. We pretend like they don't already have the answer. They're trying to do the scientific method in reverse. They have the conclusion. Now they're trying to work their way, they're trying to get back to the hypothesis. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
You know what? Drag just made a good point. And this is something, and this is sad, man, but it shows desperation to me of Christian apologists, because you talk about people like William Lane Craig, a lot of Christians don't agree with him or whatever the case may be. This is one of their top guys, though. This is like the smartest they can get, besides, I hate to say that, but this is like top of the chain, man. Come on, Drag. He's like top of the chain, man, for these people. And it's bad, dude. I think Sean Carroll didn't even really have to say a lot to dismantle this. He said, first of all, give me a definition of what life is. He said, once you give me a true definition of what life is, because inside of the theist mind, the theist mind, only thing they think of is us. We the only thing, carbon-based life is the only thing they feel like represents life. But we know through, like I said, simulations, different things with quantum mechanics and quantum physics. And we know, like Nate said earlier today when we were speaking, silicone-based life. And there's other forms of life that we know that could live outside of carbon-based life, even within carbon-based life. And what Sean Carroll speaks about later when you see this whole debate, he talks about even if some of the constants were changed a little, but just a little, it still doesn't say that there wouldn't be life. It just wouldn't be life as we know it. So we don't know what would be if certain ratios were different, or if certain things were slightly different. But this is the problem I have with theists using this argument. Back to what Drag said. Even if we give them, even if we just for the sake of argument, which
just grant the fact.
Just granted, even though it's garbage, even though it's a terrible argument, doesn't prove their mythology. But let's grant it, right? Like Drag said. What does it predicate? Does it actually predicate your brand of mythology? Does it predicate that this universe was fine-tuned? Okay. By who? By Zeus, by Brahman, by Vishnu, by Vashti, by Allah, by who fine-tuned it? And how do you predicate it that it's your particular mythical book, God?
You're getting into the details now. You know, they don't want to talk about
the
details.
Well, I understand they run from that, because how does it predicate that? So it's so many holes in these arguments, man. It's pathetic to me that they still use them. But like y'all heard what Sean Carroll said, though. He said himself, he said this is one of the best arguments that they use. And it is. They use this fine-tuning argument more than they even use the cosmological argument. Because, you know, when you look at the cosmological argument, all these other arguments, they have been used, and William Lane Craig and people like Frank Turek, who we're going to play later, they use this argument. But the fine-tuning argument is like the argument that they feel like they have some type of trump with. I don't know why. And it's one of the weakest arguments that they can even muster.
One thing, though, isn't this just like really simply, if you can't tell me how it was, I can posit a God, and you can't defeat it? Because that's really what he's saying.
Yes, it's the old God of the gaps. I mean, it's all of their arguments deal with God of the gaps.
That's exactly what this is. And if you can't tell me how it is, then it's a God of the gap argument. Then you have to postulate God, and then that's my proof.
That is sad, man. That is sad. It's sad. It's the same thing with all of the arguments. It comes down to, well, if you don't get your morality from my personal mytho God, then you don't have morality. So same thing, and not jump back into that argument.
Well, hold on. Well, you know what? We're going right. Let's go there right now. Let's talk about morality. So,
before we do,
finish this up.
Drag, do you have any other bullet holes you want to put in this garbage fine-tuning argument?
No, I mean, Carol fucking bent him over. I mean, like, that's not a nice way to say it. It's like, dude, I could, because what's that fucking dude's name? He's been appearing on my channel. He likes to use the word speculate. Well, I can speculate. Well, bitch, I can speculate butt fairies. Like, you can speculate fucking aliens. I can speculate fucking rock monsters. I can speculate anything that I can literally conceive. I can throw in there and say, oh, it did it. It has magical fucking powers.
Created the universe.
Yeah, created everything. I mean, go actually look at people fucking creation myths. Like it's one. There's I'm trying to think of Bumba. Well, as an African guy, he literally threw up the universe. Motherfucker just everything created. Like people can imagine and speculate till the cows come home. But unless you got something to say, this particular mechanism here that we can test, that we know that we have actual fucking data for, get the fuck out of my face, man. Because it's like, don't expect people to have this low bar for belief because you want to believe whatever the fuck you want to believe.
But simply put, this fucking argument is one of just like, hey, listen, let's find something that science can't tell us. The beginning of the universe, and let's say it's God. And since no one, because again, these are all like Empress said, God of the gaps argument. Wherever there's a gap in knowledge, they're going to say God did it and leave it. And we're going to see, and we will see like the Prager University video. That's all they're doing. Any place where science doesn't understand it, place God as a placeholder and try to, and until somebody can prove that to be wrong. And then back in the day it was lightning and it was rain, but now it happens to be the beginning of the universe. They think that's the safe place where you could put God, and guess what? That is going to eventually be destroyed by science too. So we moving on to morality.
Yes, no problem, my man. No problem.
Morality. So let's see. So listen, since you guys have no basis for your morality, you guys are immoral people. So I want to make sure I state that real quick, so you guys know where we coming from. All right. So this is Frank Turek, one of my favorite Christian apologists, because he don't know shit. So we're about to hear him spout his nonsense. Listen, now listen to this. If this guy convinces you, I'm sorry for you. Here you go.
68 years ago this month, the Allies liberated the camp. They went through the front gate, which is still there. They looked to the right. They saw the crematorium, which is still there. They got down to the crematorium, and then they looked into the courtyard.
You know what? Let me start at the beginning.
The M in crime stands for morality. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to visit the Buchenwald concentration camp. 68 years ago this month, the Allies liberated the camp. They went through the front gate, which is still there. They looked to the right, they saw the crematorium, which is still there. They got down to the crematorium, and then they looked into the courtyard attached to the crematorium, and this is what they saw. Brace yourself. Now, if there is no God, this is just a matter of opinion. Why? Because if there's no God, if there's no standard beyond humanity, then this is just your opinion against Hitler's opinion. If there's no standard beyond us, then we're just left with opinions. There are no objective moral rights or objective moral wrongs. In fact, if God does not exist, the Nazis were not wrong. It's just your opinion that they were wrong.
This guy's
insane.
insane.
God does not exist, love is no better than rape. Not in an objective way, anyway. You just may not like it. It's just unfashionable, perhaps, but it's not really wrong. If God does not exist, blowing up innocent people watching a marathon is morally no different than feeding the poor. It's just your opinion. If God does not exist, religious crusades are not wrong. I had the opportunity to debate Christopher Hitchens a couple times. I love Christopher Hitchens. He was great. We had a lot of fun. He had a British accent, so he sounded even more brilliant than he was. And you could see both our debates on our website, crossexamined.org, for free. And Hitchens kept talking about all the evil religious people were doing in the Crusades. I said, Christopher, I agree with you. Exactly. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that if there's no God. Because there's no standard of righteousness. If there's no standard of righteousness, nothing can be unrighteous. In fact, tolerance is no better than intolerance. David, with his organization, rightfully fights for tolerance for atheists. But look, if there's no God, why tolerate anything? Because there is no, in fact, there are no human rights if there is no God. Everything is a matter of opinion. If we're just overgrown germs that got here by some evolutionary process, then we're no different than any other animal. There is no objective morality if there is no God. Now, by the way, I didn't say atheists weren't good people. I didn't say atheists couldn't know morality. What I'm saying here is atheists can't justify morality. Now, let me move on to evil. You're going, wait, he's supposed to bring that up. Evil's an argument against God. Actually, let's take a look at it a little bit more closely. In fact, let's draw a two-column chart here. Does God exist?
Now, that's his morality argument. Do you guys want to hear the argument for evil, too? And just
wrap
them both up? Take them both down at one time? Because we can start at the morality argument, because he gave us a lot to work with right there, you know?
Well, he's just blasting this shit out. Man,
right.
he needs to...
All right, so here, let's listen to the argument from evil so we can dispense with this one, too, while we at it, since we got some time.
Yes and no. I've just given some of the evidence that God does exist. Creation, design of the universe, reason, which include the laws of logic, information, and morality. Let me add a couple more. I briefly mentioned free will. We have free will. That can't be explained in an atheistic worldview, because if we're just molecules in motion, we really don't have freedom. We're not really making choices. We're just reacting to previous physical causes. The laws of nature. You ever wonder why the laws of nature are so precise? Why can we take a rover and put it on Mars with absolute precision? Who's holding this universe together? Why are the four fundamental forces so predictable and so precise? It seems like something's holding this all together right now. In fact, as you know, the Christian view of God is not just that he created the universe, but he's sustaining it right now. In fact, this is Aristotle's view. Somebody's holding the universe together right now. God is to the universe as a symphony is to music. Once the symphony stops playing, the music's over. Somebody's holding the universe together right now. Now, on the other side, you'd say evil. If there is a good God, why is all this evil in the world? Well, it turns out that evil is not an argument against God. Evil actually turns out to be an argument for God. Why? Because of...
Oh, do you guys want to delve into? Do you guys really want to delve into this? Because I'm so hot at this, I almost forgot about the morality.
Oh, definitely. I want to chew him up on that too.
All right, so yeah.
People afterwards, man, listen to this book, because he's meandering in and out of fucking science and philosophy. Like, he don't know what he's just throwing out shit. Like, but I love this kind of shit though, man.
All right,
he's dumb as a rock, but he's dumb as a rock.
Here we go.
My fucking God. Like,
okay, which one y'all want to hit first? The stupid thing he just said about evil or morality?
Let's go morality first.
Let's go morality first. Let me put up his list. Remember, he had his list of things. All right, so let me try to get to that list again.
If God does not exist, the Nazis were not wrong. This guy is so stupid.
All right, but let me for the people out there. Let me tell you the reason why I just personally find this argument stupid. Now, we have a whole bunch of, they even wrote a list down of shit. For instance, so his argument is, if you don't have an objective standard, then everything's an opinion and nothing matters. But let's think about this. Let's just take that and take it to another realm. What about food? Like, if I give you a piece of chocolate cake, And there's some people who don't like chocolate, some people who do. Does that mean we have no, there's no good food, there's no bad food? Does that mean all food is all food is a matter of opinion? If I give you a piece of shit or a sirloin steak, it's all the same?
You wouldn't know the difference, man.
I wouldn't know the difference.
You need an official, objective, fucking taste tester to tell you.
Yes.
But let me be fair. Let's separate this from preferences, because everyone can have a preference.
What happened?
Like ice cream, but we're talking about actual morals, right? Let's separate them from preferences, because I think that if we get too far into some of these analogies, that it gets too distilled into things that they're not really similar to. So I'd rather look at this like, look, if you want a third party, a non-human third party to give out judgments, then we can get a magic fucking 8-ball, and that can be the standard then. If that's really what we want to do here. But because if he does not trust himself enough to make any moral judgments, then why should we be listening to him right now? That's the thing that I love bringing up to these guys, because it's always this, well, I can't, for whatever reason, make moral judgments myself because I'm a terrible, sinning human being, whatever, terrible person, sinner, whatever. Fine. But then that means that the shit that you say after that also falls in that fucking category. So when you tell me some bullshit like, well, we need to all defer to this thing that I think that we should be deferring to, well, if you can't even trust your fucking self, why should I trust your opinion about deferring to something that's not you? So,
but even look at the fucking objective morals that he's pointing to. He's, in the Bible, it does say kill children. It says, sell off rape victims. These horrors in the Bible, nobody would say are moral today. And he's saying that that's objectively moral. It's moral in all places and all times. And and that's offensive. That's kind of crazy. And the fact of the matter is that he's trying to say, his whole argument is saying there has to be an objective moral truth out there. That's the only way we know the difference between good and bad.
Well, see, this is the problem.
And that's the problem. He doesn't understand that that's not true. You can have these determinations on what you believe is good and bad. And the reason why we judge the Nazis as wrong is because we as a society, all the billions of people on the planet, come and say, you know what, murder is wrong. Because for us to live together, you can't steal my shit and kill my people. You know what I'm saying? We got to live together in a society. So we have these rules we can do that. And he's just trying to say, well, those are just opinions. Yeah, those are opinions that we have to live by for us to have the society we have today, unfortunately. If enough people have that same opinion that eating shit is wrong, then guess what? Most people aren't going to eat shit. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what? This is so, oh my God, man. This is like the fine tuning argument. I just have so much fun with these stupid arguments.
He used it too. He used the fine tuning argument in that shit.
Oh my God, hell no! I don't want to listen to his fine tuning because he's not as smart as William Lane Craig. So I would rather just stick with Craig on the fine. Anything scientific, I got to go William Lane Craig. At least he has a better sense of how to actually make these arguments rhetorical. Frank Turek is a straight dodo. But this is the thing about the moral argument. When you talk about the moral zeitgeist, and we talk about society, like Nate just said, we look at society and how we used to look at things morally. Think about this. This is why we know this God is fake and this God is not real. The things we used to look at just 150 years ago as a society, a religious society, we thought were moral. Number one example, slavery. Slavery, people thought that slavery was moral because the Bible said it was good. They thought this was something, and everybody agreed with it, basically, until, time changed. And people, society as a whole said, oh, no, we don't think slavery is a good thing. When you look at the way Europe used to treat their criminals, how they used to pull bodies apart, do all these different things. Things that old Europe used to do, even in Arabia, Africa, things they used to do 100, 200 years ago, people looked at as being moral. Now, why do we not look at these things as being moral today? Not because some God came down and told us this, because the Bible is one of the most immoral books ever. But we look at these things as being immoral now because society has agreed on these things. Now, there's an argument on, is there such thing as objective morality? Some people say that morality is subjective. I say that certain moral things that we deal with are objective. And the reason I say that, because right now, if I take a poll, I mean, people from different religions, atheists, agnostics, and I say, hey, do you think you should go out and rape this little boy? I won't ask the Catholic priest this, but let's just ask the majority of people. I mean, just leave out the Catholic. Okay, my fault. I said everybody.
No.
I'm gonna take a poll. Okay, I'm gonna take a poll without the Catholic priests and all them. And I'm just gonna say, hey, do you think you should go have sex with this little boy? Most of us are gonna say, hell no, that shit is. So we objectively, all of us are agreeing that this is something that is objectively wrong. So in a sense, it's still kind of to go back to being subjective. There are some morality that is objective, but that could be a whole nother philosophical debate.
Yeah, that's an ongoing one, whether you're a more realist or more anti-realist. There's a whole thought based on that shit. But that's nothing. And I love when these dudes make this separation. Well, you can't have any kind of morality if it's all opinions and subjective. People can subjectively come to the same fucking conclusion. People do it all the goddamn time.
That's right.
So it doesn't actually stop you. Like, it's not an argument. That's just none of these dudes, especially what's his name? We should have Beckle brother this when he was on here. Beckle, he loves saying this shit. Well, that's just subjective. Well, bitch, okay, and he never actually says why that's bad. He's never been able, in the last 5 years of me talking to this dude, he's never been able to answer anybody about why that's bad. Oh, well, it just is. Well, bitch, why? Like, tell me something. Talk to me. But he ain't got nothing. Not a goddamn. Well,
exactly. I want to make a historical point too. If we just deal with Christianity, okay? Don't worry about Islam. Christianity, which is basically just a subset of Judaism. And when we deal with Judaism and we talk about Yahweh or Elohim or whatever title you want to give to this being, and you talk about morality, for Christians or Jews, whoever, to believe that morality only came from this particular God is also a historical contradiction. And the reason it's a historical contradiction, because we know that there were societies and religions and cultures who existed thousands and thousands of years before a so-called Ten Commandments were made up, or before the so-called Torah or the Talmud or any of these particular things. When you look at, like I always mention, the Code of Hammurabi. When you look at the Code of Hammurabi, 252 codes of Hammurabi. Hammurabi was not a Christian. He didn't believe in Yahweh. He believed in the Babylonian god Shemesh, which was the sun god, which if you see this big, it's a 7-foot black stone stela where you can see the god Shemesh. By the way, Shemesh was the sun god, which actually the Hebrews actually got their term for. The term for sun in Hebrew is Shemesh. And you wonder why. And you understand how the Jews actually stole a lot of their idioms and words, and they stole a lot of their trilateral roots from these so-called pagan societies that they neighbored. But when you look at the Code of Hammurabi, you see all of these moral codes that had nothing to do with the God Yahweh, had nothing to do with Judaism. So there was cultures that had moral codes to say, do not do this, do this. If you do this, you have to pay this tax. Another good example, when you talk about ancient Egypt, and you talk about the 42 laws of Mayat, 42 laws or what is also called the 42 negative confessions. These particular laws are moral laws and codes of a people who did not believe in the same deity. So for a Christian, and this goes back to what we said about even in the fine-tuning argument, to predicate, how do you predicate that morality came from your God when we know through history and historicity that there were moral codes passed down through cultures way older than Judaism, way older than the so-called Moses, if he ever existed, which I doubt it, way older than the so-called Abraham. When you look at the Hindu laws, you look at the Brahmin, you look at these particular things, if you ever read the Rig Vedas, you ever read any of these particular stories, the Bhagavad Gita, there are moral teachings that predate the Bible by thousands of years. So what God gave all of these other cultures? Morality. Confucius, Buddhism, Jainism. When you look at all these particular religions, these Oriental religions, you see all these moral codes, and a lot of them predate the Bible. So that's a bullshit argument. And think about this, and back about what I was saying about the moral zeitgeist. Why does it change? And why didn't a God come down and have to tell us, hey man, slavery was bad? Because we know that the Bible actually backs it. I've debated so many people on this. I actually tried to get Frank Turek on my channel. I've been trying to get Frank Turek. I got my emails now. I've been trying to get this clown on my channel for the last 3 months.
He's running probably.
Huh?
He probably been running
Man,
like hell, right?
I'm still trying to get Frank because I really want to embarrass this dude because he got so many followers. People think he's a smart guy, but y'all already know we're gonna have Ray Comfort on this show soon. But we need to get Frank on here too, though.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's funny because well Frank, the problem is that I always feel like his arguments are made for easy consumption and the ignorance of the audience. He's hoping that because the audience is ignorant, that he can just put one over on them. And then if you actually look at it a little bit more, you're like, hold on, this argument makes no sense. It just doesn't make sense even to the way he's saying it, because again, just because there's no pinnacle of ice cream doesn't mean I can't, we can't all agree ice cream is better than poison.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's that type of understanding. And the fact of the matter is, I want to make it very clear to the audience, I'm not saying that objective morals don't exist. I'm just saying I've never been presented one. And if they do exist, that doesn't mean it's like that. That's just something that I don't believe we have discovered in a sense, in a meaningful way. People can say they're objective morals, but I've never been exposed to one where this is a moral fact that can't be changed or that there is no exception to. But I do understand that they could exist. And just because we're figuring out through the subjective means doesn't mean that an objective moral standard doesn't exist. So I want to just make that clear.
Well,
that they could exist, but I just don't know what they are.
You know what, Nate? You made a good point. You made a good point. I know Drag probably want to say something else, but think about this: just within the Christian sect of mythology. Think about this: if there was I would call a true, like I say, I don't denounce that there's a such thing as objective morality. I think it's like a slippery slope. But just think about this for a minute. If in fact there was a particular stable objective morality, right, from this God, that means that everybody would understand it. But think about this: even within the Christian movement, you have some Christians that are pro-abortionists. You have some Christians that are anti-abortionists. Now, why is that? Why can't Christians who claim to have an objective morality from their mythical God, from their God in the Bible, why do we have Christians on two sides? I'm just giving one example of one issue, abortion. We have Christians on both sides of this battle. Now, if morality was objective from their God, doesn't it seem like we would have some type of clear stance to say, no, man, hey, my God said we know for a fact that abortion is wrong. No, we don't know for a fact because the fetus is blah, 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 blah. So we have. I'm gonna tell you another example where Christians are opposite of each other. What do you call that term, Drag? When the doctors, when the patients want to commit suicide, and the doctor they want to ask the doctor to kill them. What is that term?
Assisted suicide.
Euthanasia. Yeah, euthanasia.
Euthanasia. Christians. This is another example. You have Christians on the side of euthanasia saying, no, this is immoral. Then you have Christians on the other side saying, if this is what so you have this contradiction of morality, and specifically objective morality. And their God is silent on this. That their God is silent on so many issues. I mean, so these particular simple stances kind of show the contradiction in this morality argument. Like, what the fuck God created morality? Who is he? You know what I mean? So it kind of like kills their whole points, man.
And on top of that, this is a perfect God who can't get a simple message. Hey, this is objective morality. It's all fucked up. Everybody else confused. If I was the perfect guy giving a perfect message, if everybody confused about the message, I must have fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere.
We need to pivot into the evil shit. But no, just to wrap up on that, man. It's
okay.
Because I've heard, just to be fair, I've heard this. Well, it's like putting clean water through a dirty filter. So you got a perfect guy putting clean water and we're the dirty filter. And I'm like, look, you can. If you are a perfect being, there won't be a dirty fucking filter. Like I don't understand. Like when you're making that analogy, if you are perfect, you are incapable of creating something that's imperfect. That would
exactly.
Oh, the filter is supposed to be perfect. If you made the filter, that's perfect too.
It's supposed to be fucking perfect. But according to some folks that reside here on this weird fucking little box, Nate, your definition of perfect is not the Christian definition. Put that in quote, the Christian definition of and I heard a motherfucker say that, and I said, bitch, you know you were desperate when you say the Christian definition of perfect.
Right, that's terrible. But you know what?
Same language somewhere. So,
hey, like Drag said, we're gonna go on into the evil part. But I want to say this: even going back to the fine tuning argument, and you seen what Sean Carroll said. Well, if it's God, why would a perfect, all powerful? Don't forget, omnipotent. These are these qualifiers that they put on this God. Why would an all powerful, perfect God even care about atoms? Like, he don't care about the atomic weight of an atom. He can do what he want to do. So it goes back to like what y'all just saying. A perfect God. I mean, come on, man. He would be able to get his message across a little better. He's a real sloppy being if he's real. I don't like him at all, even if he's real. He's terrible.
This perfect God makes a lot of mistakes to be so perfect, right?
Yeah, he does.
So hold on. So you guys want to go back to Frank Turk? Cause
yeah. We like Frankie, boy.
Man, you didn't already play a little bit of that. So
all right. So
man, we like old Frankie, boy.
Let's get into his argument for evil, since we can't have no morals. All right, here we go.
Evil's an argument against God. Actually, let's take a look at it a little bit more closely. In fact, let's draw a 2-column chart here. Does God exist? Yes and no. I've just given some of the evidence that God does exist. Creation, design of the universe, reason, which include the laws of logic, information, and morality. Let me add a couple more. I briefly mentioned free will. We have free will. That can't be explained in an atheistic worldview, because if we're just molecules in motion, we really don't have freedom. We're not really making choice.
Isn't that just a straight argument for ignorance? We can't explain it, so it must be God. He literally just said that. He literally just put out an argument for ignorance. Free will can't be explained.
Another version of God of the gaps, basically.
We're just reacting to previous physical causes. The laws of nature. You ever wonder why the laws of nature are so precise? Why can we take a rover and put it on Mars with absolute precision? Who's holding this universe together? Why are the 4 fundamental forces so predictable and so precise? It seems like something's holding this all together right now. In fact, as you know, the Christian view of God is not just that he created the universe, but he's sustaining it right now. In fact, this is Aristotle's view. Somebody's holding the universe together right now. God is to the universe as a symphony is to music. Once the symphony stops playing, the music's over. Somebody's holding the universe together right now. Now, on the other side, you'd say evil. If there is a good God, why is all this evil in the world? Well, it turns out that evil is not an argument against God. Evil actually turns out to be an argument for God. Why? Because objective evil presupposes objective good, and objective good requires God. In fact, C.S. Lewis, who was an atheist for a period of time because he thought the world was too unjust, realized that didn't make any sense. Here's what he wrote in Mere Christianity after he became a Christian. He said, as an atheist, my argument against God was that the universe seems so cruel and unjust. But how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing this universe with when I called it unjust? There's no such thing as injustice unless there's such a thing as justice. And there's no such thing as justice unless there's a standard outside of ourselves that's objective and doesn't change. In fact, we could say it this way. The shadows prove the sunshine. In order to have shadows, you have to have sunshine. In order to have evil, you have to have good. Oh, you can have good without evil. You can have sunshine without shadows, but you can't have evil without good. You can't have shadows without sunshine. So let's adjust our chart. Actually, I think evil we can actually put on the yes side of the ledger. Now, this doesn't explain everything about evil, quite obviously, but the whole idea that there is evil points to good, and good only exists if God exists. Now, the science, he's going to bring up science. Actually, no, science does not help.
Now, hold on. I'm sorry. So, what? He just said because evil exists, then good has to exist, and that's the what? Did he really just like?
Yes,
he squared that circle right there.
Yeah, he quoted C.S. Lewis, who obviously went crazy before his death. See, this is the thing, you know, and somebody in the chat just made a good point about how Christians, they're so desperate. They actually use people like Aristotle and Plato arguments, which didn't believe in that damn fake God. But this is the desperation of these people. But I want to say something about this. Oh man, I don't know what. This is a very bad argument. I really would like to have Frank, you know, face to face, you know. But because this is a terrible argument, dude. Think about this. He says that, and see, this is the thing that he didn't mention in the Christian world. And I learned all of this when I was taking my theology classes. one thing that Christians do, one thing that we did in school, we always understood, as when we studied for to be apologists, we always understood that no matter what, God was omnipotent, he was omniscient, and he was omnipresent, meaning he was everywhere at all times. He was all powerful, can do anything, and he was all knowing, omniscience. But see, this is the thing where the contradictions come in at. Philosophically, even outside of philosophical circles. If you have a God, and let's just go back to the biblical story. Let's just keep this thing simple. You know, let's just keep it simple for a little child can understand. You go back to the story of Genesis, right? Let's just deal with that. And you talk about a God that's omniscient and omnipotent. And, oh, excuse me, I forgot one more qualifier that we was taught about this particular being. Omnibenevolent, meaning all love, right? There's no way that you can have a being with so much evil in the world. There's no way there could be so much evil in the world for a being that's omnipotent and omnibenevolent. These are contradictory characteristics, period. There's no way around it. Because if either this being, and Epicurus said this very well, either this particular deity, if he's all powerful, he's either all powerful, but he is not all love, or he's either weak and he's all love, and he just doesn't have the power to stop evil. There's no way that you can tell me a person, a being that's omnibenevolent, anything, would allow kids to be raped, molested, would allow killings and murders, senseless things that could be stopped, simple things. But just going back to the book of Genesis, when you talk about a God and you talk about the way that this book was written, God created an Adam. Then he created this Eve out of her rib, out of his rib, which is a stupid story off the rip. A sensible person shouldn't even accept that anyway. And then he has these two people in this garden, right? And these are grown people, Drag. They have no life experiences, though. No life experiences. But yet you have in the garden according to the Hebrews, called a nakash, which means it's serpent, which was called, in the Hebrew, was called, the smartest being in the garden. So this God, all knowing, know that this being is smarter than these two people he just made, because these two people don't have no life experience. Then he has two trees in his garden, right? This omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent being. And he tells them, hey, don't touch these two trees. But you touch that tree, you surely die.
But hold on. But even at that point, he knew that they were going to touch the tree, and he had to know that birds were going to go to
That's the point I'm making, because he's omniscient. So him telling them that is stupid from the rip, because you already know what they're going to do. So why punish them? Why come back and have an attitude? This stupid deity comes back, all-knowing deity, comes back and he's angry because Adam starts snitching. He tells the woman, he tells God, oh, no, it wasn't me. It was the woman that you gave me. Then she snitched on the serpent. Well, it wasn't me, but the serpent, he beguiled me. So this God this is a real bedtime story that grown people shouldn't just believe. So then this God started passing down punishments, and y'all know the rest of the stupid story. But evil in this world, all of the evil in this world. Matter of fact, let me say this, Nate. Let me just ask a question. Let me reverse it to the point of how Frank Turek doesn't make any sense. If I was to say that, we're going to just say for the sake of argument, this God is this. If I was to say that this world, that this God is omnibenevolent, in other words, he's all evil, that would contradict what we see in the world. Why do I say that? Because we see good in this world. We do see a lot of good in this world. You understand what I'm saying? So for me to say that a being who created this and who wanted a good for all people, for me to say that this being is all evil would be contradictory to what we experience. We do experience good. There are good people of all ethnicities in this world. So if you would agree to that and say, well, there's no way in the world this God could be all evil because there's too much good in the world at the same time. But at the same time, if you ask the Christian, when you reverse and say, well, how in the world do you think a God could be all good with so much evil in the world? You understand what I'm saying? When you reverse the questions, it only makes sense that you have to be fair on both sides of the question, both sides of the coin. How can an all good God exist with all this evil and suffering in the world? Same thing. How could an all evil God exist with good in the world? So it's really a bad argument from evil, man.
Actually, it's interesting. It's incoherent on both sides. But there was one point that you said that because you were talking about one specific type of evil. You're talking about, let's say, like when two people, like when if I kill somebody or a man rapes a woman or something like that, that's right. One part of evil. But we're not even talking about all the natural evil, like when a tsunami hits and 250,000 people are killed. More people die from natural events than other people. So
that is also evil. That is also evil. That's right.
And that's the one that I think Christians have the hardest time to struggle with, because if you think about it, there are more children killed. There's like a child killed every minute on the planet or something like that. Like every 2 or 3 minutes or something like that. Some ridiculous.
That's what we call non-moral evils. That's right.
Yeah. And if you're talking about an all-loving God, then why would he need to kill so many? Why would he need children to have cancer? Why would he need so much death if he can do anything? It just doesn't make sense.
How about this question, Nate? Just for the sake of argument, let's just say this dodo bird God exists. Why couldn't he be intelligent enough? Because we got to go back to the term omnipotent, all-powerful. Why couldn't this God create an ecosystem where we didn't need tsunamis and hurricanes? Don't you think he could have been smart enough? Don't you think? And plus, he's all-knowing, right? So he knows that the world was going to populate, and people were going to die from tornadoes and earthquakes and tsunamis. And don't you think he could have made an ecosystem where we didn't have to have? We have hurricane season, dude. Tornado season. So we know this shit coming every year. I mean, so and the first thing you ask a Christian when you see people, dogs done died and children done died because they trailer park been flipped over, their houses been thrown up. First thing you ask them, was that the way God wanted them to go? Yeah. That was that time. It's just stupid, man. It's ignorant. It's like saying a person dying in a plane crash or a car crash, but that's the way God wanted them to go. But I guess 100 years ago, before we had cars, you didn't see people dying in car crashes and plane crashes. So God didn't want them to die on horses and shit. So I don't, the shit.
I mean, it's just the same excuse. It's like, well, this is a way for me to make sense of this person's death. It makes me feel better personally. That's the point I'm making, Drag. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, that's a good point, Drag. Well, hold on. Well, you know what? Since we're at the 1 hour mark, let me do this. Let's go to our Prager University because we'll be with this guy all day. This guy has like a lot of horrible arguments.
I told you, man. We're
gonna be beating this guy to death. And we had all these other ones we wanted to talk about, but shit, we barely got to the first two before we got sidetracked. So here we go. So this next one, I'll set it up. This is Prager University, and these are their 4 reasons why God does exist. So please listen to this and tell us if you agree with Prager University. And again, this is not an accredited school. This is all bullshit. But Prager University's 4 reasons why God exists. So here we go.
Thought anyone who believed in a God or gods was, well, stupid or uneducated, naive, gullible, or just into the gig for money, sex, and power. I mean, after all, everyone knows that religion is just a psychological crutch for intellectual weaklings, right? So, what changed my mind? Well, look, I tell the whole story in my book, Shattered, but for our purposes here on Prager University, I was simply challenged by my Christian teammates on the Cincinnati Reds to read some religious books, critique them, and then share with the guys where the authors were wrong and why atheism is the only real and true outlook for anyone not deceived by fantasy, fiction, or mythology. I mean, for someone who wants to base their beliefs and values upon evidence and argument, not emotion and tradition. Now look, simply put, I set out to disprove theism, which I didn't think would take very long. But I ran into some difficulties along the way. Difficulties like Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas. I mean, in simple terms, I was confronted with the awareness that there are really 4 big bangs that have to be accounted for, not just one. I had never really even considered that before. I mean, we're all familiar with the first big bang, right? It's usually the answer given to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's the idea that there was nothing, it popped, and boom, there's something. I mean, that time, matter, and space all came into existence in some great cosmological flash about 16 billion years ago. There was no gradual development, no transitional forms, just a binary flip. A metaphysical, now you don't see it, and now you do. Fine, I want to follow the evidence wherever it leads. However, astrophysicists tell us that this first Big Bang yielded only a handful of fundamental elements, and that it would take billions and billions of years for the nuclear furnaces of trillions of stars to yield the 118 elements in the periodic table. But the first theoretical cosmological Big Bang, well, it only yields matter and energy. It doesn't even begin to address the origin of life. So, how do you get life from non-life? How did a bio...
Damn, man, we couldn't get through the 5-minute video.
No.
This is number 2. This is the second Big Bang we talking about.
Man, come on. Like, just, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sitting listening to this fucking dude. I'm like, please. It kind of like, it really does, to some degree, upset me that they call themselves Prager University. Let me actually read y'all what they actually are. Prager U, for short. Prager University is an American nonprofit organization that creates videos on various political, economic, and philosophical topics from a conservative perspective. The videos are posted on YouTube and usually feature a speaker who gives a mini lecture for about 5 minutes. Despite having university in his name, Prager U is not an academic institution, does not hold class, and does not grant certification or diplomas. Look, if y'all listen to this motherfucker for information on any goddamn thing, please go take yourself to an actual fucking university. I don't care if it's an actual conservative university. Please go to an actual one, because this is oh my god. Well, how do we got life? All we get a matter. What the fuck do you think everything is made of? Like the second he said, how do we got life when all we got was matter and energy? What the fuck do you think literally everything is made of? Like I can't. It's so fucking stupid. Like, it really hurts to hear stupid shit like this.
Drag going in, man. Drag going in.
Because I had motherfuckers link me. Who was it? Beckel and link me some stupid shit like this. Was it some motherfucking dickhole a few weeks ago? Link me some Prager. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Prager U. You got classes there? Let me see your fucking schedule. Who teaching fucking be a dickhole online 1-on-1? I want to see that shit.
This some real registrar. It's some real Kent Hovind shit here, man.
But this got millions of people watching this shit.
Well, see, Nate, listen, Nate. Do you mind if I quote from the great Jeebus Christus?
Go ahead, quote.
Jeebus Christus, according to the New Testament, said the road, to destruction was broad. So, in other words, even Jesus knew that a whole bunch of stupid motherfuckers is going to outweigh the intelligent people. He said that the road that leadeth to destruction is broad. That's funny how atheists, we're quoting New Testament scripture. But, it's the thing is, man, I mean, people like bullshit. Look at Kent Hovind. Kent Hovind, he has a big following of donut heads. I mean, come on, man.
He's telling people to poison themselves, man.
That's
Literally.
what I'm saying. These people believe that the earth is 6,000 years old, man. He claims to be a science teacher. Come on, get this fuck.
It's just, oh my god, please go to an actual accredited Christian unit. If y'all gonna do that, go to an actual where you can actually get a
Hey man, these people are having fun with Jesus is Lord in the damn chat box.
He's just a goddamn fool, man. Y'all have fun with
Trust me, this is where he got his degree, Prager University.
Yeah, I see that. He's
Prager
alumni.
Prager University. What the fuck? Prager University. Let's finish it though. I know y'all don't want to listen to this bullshit. People in the chat like this is fucked up. Yeah, but let's go and finish it for fun.
Here we go. Bang.
So the second Big Bang. Now it seems to me that these are just all, if we don't know something, it's got to be God, and that's so. Let's listen to the next 3. If we can.
Yeah, let's listen to all this shit he talking.
Genesis occur. I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing. Where's the evidence? Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang. For all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the chasm. I mean, sure, we've learned
He's
a lot
literally
about
God
how
of the
to
gaps.
manipulate life forms, how to add and subtract DNA material, even map the human genome, but we have no idea how to literally create life from dead stuff. Now look, at this point, we still only have physics, chemistry, and some basic biology, or matter, energy, and simple life, if you will. But we still don't have a way to account for the great diversity of life forms. I mean, the huge differences between bacteria, plants, and animals. Nor do we have a way to account for the differences between man and animal. We still don't have an anthropology at this point. So we're going to need a kind of anthropological third Big Bang to account for all this, which of course is what Darwin was after in his Descent of Man thesis. Now look, Darwin answered a lot of questions, but he could never answer the core question. How did evolution begin? But hey, we're still not done describing the world that is all around us. A final Big Bang is going to be required to explain how a mechanistic animal brain can become a self-reflective human mind. Even the lowest life forms have brains and central nervous systems. I mean, how does something like that become the mind of a Michelangelo, a Shakespeare, a Beethoven? Come on, animals don't do art and they don't appreciate beauty. But the problem is even more basic than that. How do you account for free will and introspection, let alone man's pressing existential drive to ask why? Well, we're going to need some kind of psychological fourth Big Bang to account for man's moral and aesthetic sense in his search for meaning, significance, and purpose, and of course his appreciation for the true, the good, and the beautiful. And again, you must understand these problems require bangs. I mean, sudden binary pops into existence, since there's no evidence for any gradual development in any of these. So I, like you, have a choice. It's either faith in these four Big Bangs of somethings from nothings to account for what we see all around us, or faith in some kind of creator God behind it all. So, next time someone asks you, hey, what about the Big Bang? Make sure you ask them, which one? The cosmological, biological, anthropological, or psychological? I'm Frank Pastore for Prager University.
Join Prager University. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay. That was diarrhea, man. That was some real mental diarrhea there.
What that's kind of crazy. What he just said was like all insanity. He made go ahead.
I couldn't figure out who this guy was. So
a baseball player.
It was a baseball player. Okay, so let me actually. I'm looking up his background because he said he went through some investigation. He went through some investigations.
He claimed he tried to disprove theism at one point.
I don't think that he has I don't think he honestly went out and tried, because if he's going to Prager University, that's your first problem. But okay, so he went to Loyola University, private Christian university, okay, in Los Angeles. Okay, so he did actually go to a legit university, but I'm not sure if they actually taught him any goddamn thing, because this is just fucking stupid. Like, there's not a nice way for me to actually like address this and in any real meaningful, like scroll the shit back to the four Big Bangs. Let's talk about this stupid shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this stupid shit, because this is absolutely fucking tough. It's just, oh my God. This is what happens when you got fucking baseball players.
Well, we don't have to talk about four. We just talk about his last three that he actually just just made up. Because we know for a fact that we do have evidence for the first one, which is the cosmological Big Bang. We that's not even debatable. So, and this is the funny thing where Christians make themselves look bad. Because years ago, science had to force Christians to accept the Big Bang. You know, they didn't believe in it first. You know, it was something that was terrible. It was something that was, to them, was something. Oh no, this is not what happened.
I think this was the one that came up with the fucking name.
Right, he came up with the term anyway. Right, and but the thing about it, it's accepted everywhere now. Okay, so it's not debatable to even talk about the cosmological Big Bang or that particular point in time. We're not going to even discuss that. So let's go to his second one, which was biological.
Okay, and that was a reference to abiogenesis. Now look,
there we go.
But hold on. But before you guys do that, we could actually take care of number 2 and number 3, because his problems with number 3 were how did evolution begin. That's abiogenesis. He didn't even understand that his second and third big problem are identical.
Well, his third one was psychological, right?
No, his third was
anthropological. Okay, right. Okay.
But that third one, at the end of it, he says, "How did evolution begin?" That's abiogenesis. And he's, so he's and
the thing about it, he strawman Darwin because Darwin never claimed to know how life began.
Yes.
Because evolution doesn't even address that at all. Biological evolution does not address how life began. You know, so if y'all want to tackle those two at the same time, we could.
Well, but that's because he made the same point. His point was we don't know abiogenesis, and even his thing. If you think about this, I had this talk with Nephilim Free, who's this the crazy guy. But the point that he couldn't give me was, I said, "Will you agree all atoms are dead? Every atom in your body is dead." He said, "Yes." So I said, "And would you also agree that every single piece of your body is made of atoms? There's no piece of your body that's not made of an atom." He said, "Yes." So I said, "So you're telling me your body is made up of 100% dead stuff, right?" So if your body is made up of 100% dead stuff, the process from when it became dead to alive, that makes sense. It makes sense that, hey, I've made up 100% dead stuff, and now it's alive. There has to be some process that I just don't know about to bring it there. And he was like, no, he wouldn't give me that. And I'm like, well, when you give me that, if you agree that you are made of 100% dead stuff, every atom is dead, then there's some process that, life is just a change of this dead stuff. And he couldn't give me that because he knew if that by that understanding, it would have eviscerated his whole point, probably even his whole channel. So he had to fight back with me all night about that.
Right.
Yeah, he's not going to concede to that because he probably didn't realize what he was agreeing to at first. But now that he did, it's the classic fucking Nephilim Free. Well, let me walk that back, but not really. But so I love this shit because I actually had a journal club with somebody, I'm a scientist, and we actually talked about, if you actually go and look up on fucking NIH website the research, current ass research this year on abiogenesis, it exists. It exists. People don't want to look for it. Like there's all types of shit that people are doing as far as their research now. But it's such a fucking moot point. And we know at some point life had to fucking begin. If you want to say it poofed, well, I need some evidence for that poof. If people want evidence for an abiotic world turning into a biotic world, then we do have that. We can test all types of things as far as the atmosphere using ice cores. There's all types of geological evidence and
let me ask you this, Drag. Those original experiments, I can't think of the name of those experiments that was done by these certain two.
Uri Miller.
Yeah. The Uri, right. What do they have? They basically come up with better experiments than the Uri Miller experiment now.
Yeah, there's been tons and tons of follow-up experiments, but people only want to focus on Uri Miller because they didn't create a bacteria, they didn't create a germ. That's not what they were trying to do at all. And it's people who are just repeating the same ignorant shit that they heard some other fucking apologists say, but they know even less than them about fucking science. So it's like, if y'all are actually trying to be on the up and up with what's happening in science, that you need to be reading these fucking journals. You need to be getting your ass in a fucking university, not no fucking Prager University online making fucking YouTube videos. None of this bullshit. So they're not trying to understand that. But it's such a retarded fucking point. But it just shows you that they're not actually seeking information. That at the end of the fucking
okay. Let me play the let me play the antagonist here for a minute. Okay, I'm just going to say that we don't have no evidence for abiogenesis. Okay, we're just going to say I don't accept it. I don't believe it. Okay, so I want to go back to this then, Nate and Drag. I want to say I don't accept the evidence or the new experiments. I don't even know about the new experiments for abiogenesis. So I just want to say, then God, whoever the hell he is, because we've had no experiments that found God yet. So this is kind of funny to me. I want to say then, well, how can the Christian put down abiogenesis or what we have discovered on by abiogenesis or what we haven't discovered on abiogenesis, but yet just put God, same thing, God of the gaps, is going back to God of the gaps, put something in place and say, well, it had to be God, but yet we have no experiments ever on the face of the planet to find God. I'm still looking for this motherfucker, and I haven't found him yet. So how do you make the believer, the theist, since they don't want to respect, now, and I don't even say respect scientific evidence, Drag. They don't even respect. They have no respect for even things that we haven't discovered yet. They don't respect the scientific method of even saying, hey, some things we just don't know. So how do you make the theist say, well, even if we say certain things that we just don't know yet, how do you make the theist understand that they're already totally fucked because they're saying that they know, but they haven't brought any evidence or experiments? So how do you win arguments with unscientific minds like that?
Well, I had to just point at something. I said, well, let's bring this back. Let's bring this back to reality. Fuck all this posture internet bullshit. Every single fucking day, these dudes trust the scientific method and the technology that's produced from science. Every goddamn day, every time they use a shampoo, every time they put the key in the car, every time they put gas in their car, every time they turn on their computer, every single day, these motherfuckers rely on science and the scientific method that help produce the shit. So for whatever fucking reason, now all of a sudden they get skeptical. They ain't been skeptical before about how the stuff that you put in your car. You know that's gasoline? How do you know how that's processed? How do you know that the world is as old as it is in order to produce that gasoline? You're not skeptical about that. You're not precluding yourself from putting gas in your fucking car. How about the fucking shampoo? You know the chemicals in your fucking shampoo? Do you know how they're produced? You know, is any of the enzymes that we're talking about that might be involved in abiogenesis and how enzymes even work? You know, they're not even trying to actually look at what that would entail, being truly skeptical, because none of them are. I've yet to meet a motherfucker that's genuinely skeptical about the scientific process that we would use to determine a lot of this stuff. Because, and I have no problem saying, like, look, you know what? Right now, it's still in the hypothesis phase, right? We're making progress, we're making strides, and we have known hurdles. One of the hurdles is, hey, you know what? In order for some of these complex chemical interactions to happen, you need a catalyst. And you know what? How the fuck do you we need some enzyme? Well, hold on for a second. How do we have fucking nucleic acids forming when we don't have any enzymes to help fucking make them in the first place, man? How do we do some shit like that? Well, you know what? We got this thing called fucking self-catalyzing RNA.
Right.
RNA, it catalyzes its own reactions. It can do it by itself. We know these exist. We all kind of shit that can actually form naturally. We know this. We've been testing it, and there's been research on it. There's tons of shit, but they have to at some point say, you know what? I want to actually educate myself on some of this stuff. I want to actually understand that the skepticism that I'm positing now is only relegated to this one part and this one microcosm within chemistry. Within all the sciences, just chemistry. And I have no good reason other than I want my religious beliefs to be fulfilled. And I cannot reconcile my religious beliefs with the preponderance of fucking scientific information.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll just say this. It goes back to a theme that we've been seeing through all these videos. It's the same theme. Find something, part one, find something that science can't explain. Big Bang, abiogenesis, find something that science can't explain. And this guy, he wrote a book. He's, a millionaire. He's writing books about it. He's found 4 things that he believes science can't explain. He doesn't even know that number 2 and number 3 are the exact same thing. He's just saying twice. But he's found these 4 things. And his whole process is, if science can't explain those 4 things, God exists. Now, that is a false dichotomy if I've ever heard one, because number one, they're not even giving you an explanation of why these things happen. They're just saying God did it. If you ask them how they did it, anything, their answer, God did it, is no different than saying, I don't know. It is identical, because they don't know the process. They don't know anything about this thing. The only thing they can tell you is God did it. So God did it is synonymous with I don't know. Only thing, instead of them saying I don't know, they say God did it. And that's supposed to end the conversation. But for us, it doesn't, because we got to know something more. Yeah,
and because I said, you know what, just for the sake of argument, just for arguendo, I said, you know what? Let me, for whatever reason, accept that God did it. Okay. So, what were the mechanisms that this deity reach its tendrils in the physical realm? Like
How'd he
fucking
do it?
chemicals, like
How'd he do it?
like what did he whisper? And then the words that he whispers somehow started molding and crafting organic molecules. So what? Well, I don't know. He just did. Okay. So your deity here, that could be an alien, it could be Kel'Thuzad, it could be anybody.
Right.
Somehow interacted with the physical world and somehow magically did some shit. I'm supposed to believe that over, well, hold on now. We actually have known chemical processes that we can test that exist now.
Well,
that,
okay. Okay, Drag, that and I don't want to break you up, but because I like wine, right? I'm beginning to get on this wine thing. I've been turned on to this little wine and steak ratio type thing lately. My girl has put me up on. So I want to ask you something, Drag, because you're the chemist in the building. I want to know, because you just made a good point. You said, what did he stick his his tentacles down? Like, what was the mechanism? Well, I want to know this. I don't know about that bullshit, but I do want to know this. What do you think? I've been trying to figure this shit out, man. I've asked all type of preachers and I've asked voodoo people and all type of people. What do you think the mechanisms were? Because I'm fresh out of wine. What do you think the mechanisms were for turning water into wine? How did Jesus do that shit? Is that scientifically possible?
No.
Or did he just do some abracadabra shit? And when his mother came to him at this wedding in Cana, and he just said, "Bloosh." How did that shit work?
Listen, I can tell you how it works. He went to this corner store and he was like, "Yo, I need this amount of wine for this many people." And I got these coins, we pulled them out of mouths of fishes, and we about to get lit up in here tonight.
I got 5 on it.
Hey man, do you know how much money we could make? Like, we would shut down the fucking wineries in California. Why Jesus ain't told nobody that secret? You know how many poor people he could help?
There's literally nothing short of him having to manipulate the hydrogen and oxygen on a molecular a subatomic level.
Right.
Really change, like adding protons in that shit.
I wonder how the wine tasted, man. It probably had a good taste.
Was
it grape? Was it grape wine? What kind of wine was it?
Probably red wine.
It was God's wine. I know it must have tasted
without
good.
grapes. Without grapes. Without what the fuck?
Listen, it was probably the best tasting wine, and that's objectively speaking. Objectively, it was objectively great tasting wine.
Hey man, because I've been thinking about this for years. Like, damn, if one of these Jesus people could just maybe pray to get this fucking recipe, man. Because Jesus did say that all of these, he said the New Testament said Jesus, whoever the fuck Jesus was, but they got him quoted as saying, all of these miracles that you see I do, you can do greater. I ain't seen a Christian yet turn the water into goddamn wine or raise no dead. I ain't worrying about the raising the dead. I just wanted to be able to turn some water into wine. I think we could get rich doing that, man. We could get our own brand, the Three Black Heathen winery. We'd be straight, man. We could just get that.
Shit, I'll be up on that. Yeah, man. I just got to figure
out
how
the hell you talking?
Throwing protons and shit.
Man.
Shit.
Oh my God. Well, listen.
This motherfucker here walking around making fig trees die. What the fuck kind of shit is that?
No, you turning water to wine, paying your taxes. I see why Jesus was a popular guy back then. Like, yo, this guy's paying people's taxes and turning water to wine.
Jesus was on some bullshit, man.
He bring the party with him every time. I'm like, yo, that's Jesus right there. You got to bring him in. We ain't got to pay a wine bill at all, especially if it's a bar. He turning water into what? Just give me a glass of water. My guy got the wine.
I'm sure Jesus could turn water into anything. He could turn it into Ciroc, peach tasting Ciroc. I'm sure it just ain't wine.
Too bad he couldn't turn it into pistols, so he shoot those. So you can't stop me. He could take.
I ain't say holy Kool-Aid.
he couldn't turn anything real meaningful. But
so Monty say you gonna turn Lil Wayne gonna turn styrofoam lean.
No, but you know what though? It's funny because it all come back to this. All these arguments center around the central premise that if we don't know what the cause of it is, they're gonna say God until we find it out, and that's all. That's real. We've only heard tonight God of the gap arguments. I have not heard any one of these arguments that wasn't a God of the gap argument. That's all these were. He might, instead of all those, the 4 new arguments for God, he should have said 4 new arguments to display what the God of the gaps means. That's what he should have said.
Right. But you know what? I think, and just trying to be unbiased, specifically the fine-tuning argument, I think that's been debunked, and science is really debunking this fine-tuning shit. The moral argument is stupid. The moral, I mean, just to rehash what we've been over. The moral argument is, did we miss something, Nate, or what? Did we miss something? Or we gonna wait the next week?
Yeah, we're gonna wait the next week because we're an hour and a half in, and we still had like 2 more to go after this. So
well, we're gonna tackle like the cosmological. we're gonna tackle probably the cosmological argument next week, the teleological argument, and a couple of precepts, I guess, next week.
Yeah. So for next week, so everybody knows next week's show, there are formal arguments that William Lane Craig lays out. And its premises, premise 1, premise 2, premise 3. So we're going to tackle those arguments and attack those premises, and then we're going to go into the presuppositional argument, and we're going to attack that too, and then just just see if there's really at the end what are any good arguments that we think are out there for God. Like Sean Carroll said, the best argument they had was trash, which I kind of agree. But we're also going to see if there's any good arguments out there. If you have one, let us know, and especially in the comments of the chat. If you think you have a good argument for that God exists, we want to hear it. I don't know about you guys.
Might even bring you on.
We invite you on the show to even say it. Yeah, we don't care.
If it's a good argument, we'll invite you on. And you know what? It won't be no. I'm about to say gangbang. That ain't right. So too many fucking dudes come here. It's not gonna be a dog pile. But you know what? We'll if it's depending on what realm it's in, we'll let one another handle it. So we'll treat it with kid gloves, but we really want to hear. Don't bring no bullshit.
Yeah, you got to come correct. If you come here, you got to come correct. If this is the same argument we've been hearing for the past 5-10 years, we're gonna have to let you know. So you got to come with something new, and it's got to be good too. Can it be bullshit? It's got to be good, right? I'm assuming.
Right. Because it can't be the same, twisted, stupid arguments that we've been, debunking for the longest.
Ain't no answer prayer. I know. Negative.
Yeah, that's G-Man's stupid argument. He says, write things down in a book, and if they occur, God's answered your prayer, and if they don't occur, God's answered your prayer, because no is also an answer. I said, that's just like saying flip a coin, and whatever it lands on, you win. There's no way to lose that game. So, answer prayer argument, that's not even an argument. That's just a statement of some idiot. So I don't know. That's Drag's people. That's Drag's cousin, like Emperor always says.
Right.
Shit, no, he got your fucking name, Emperor, still in his mouth. He gonna sit you down and teach you something.
That's true.
Which one?
That retard from New Jersey?
Oh yeah, he's a straight retard, man. Golly.
Well, listen, let me close out the show. Listen, guys. Thank you guys again for watching. This has been great.
Appreciate it. We
hope you guys enjoy us going through these arguments. We're going to be doing it again next week, and then we're going to start having some special guests on, setting some stuff up. So you're about to hear some. It's about to get real pretty soon. So for Emperor Atheist, for Dragnot, and for everybody out there watching, we're going to see you next week. And again, thanks for stopping by.
Holla.
Peace.